this is that strange thing, a beautiful movie about living in war. Is that what it feels like to you guys?
I think this is such a remarkable experience because when we saw the footage that they captured, we just couldn't even believe that it existed, that they had the presence of mind to tell their story and to keep putting beauty back into the world. It was just, we'd never seen anything like it.
From the very beginning, we understood we will not focus it on destruction, we will not focus it on evil, we will focus it on beauty of Ukrainian culture and nature, and especially beauty of people who defends their culture, their nature, their homes, and their friends.
As I understand it, Brendan, this started as what you thought would be like a movie about art and became a movie about art during war. So can you talk about that, how this journey came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really unique the way that we came together. One of our producers on the film is actually was born under Russian oppression in communist Poland, and she's a political refugee. And about 8 years ago, she discovered Anya and Slava's art, and she was so deeply connected to it because it reminded her of home. And she showed it to me, and I absolutely had never seen anything like it. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. We couldn't figure out how, on something so small, there was such big stories on these porcelain figurines. And the four of us actually started collaborating on an animation together, and then Russia invaded Ukraine. And we called up Anya and Slava and said, "Are you guys okay? Are you leaving? What's happening?" And Slava said, "We're going to stay, and we're going to keep making art at night." And I asked him, "What are you doing during the day?" And in this moment, I learned for the first time that Slava was in the Ukrainian Special Forces and that he was training civilians, peace-loving people, to fight people that didn't want to have anything to do with war. And we all felt that this was such an incredible opportunity to share the story with the world. And we wanted to figure out a way to bring cameras into Ukraine to do that. But you can't just FedEx something into a war zone. So we actually discovered that there is an amazing network of volunteers in the United States. And it was a hairdresser in New Jersey who was moving medical supplies and paramilitary equipment into Ukraine through Poland. And she said, "I will bring your cameras with these first aid kits." And she would drive them through Poland and 15 hours to the front line. And these cameras arrived in the hands of Slava, our cinematographer, Andrey. And there was this moment where I was trying to figure out, okay, we have 6,000 miles between us. We don't speak the same language. We're separated by two cultures. How can we empower them to be able to tell their own story? And I asked Anya around this time, "How are you feeling about what's happening?" And she said, "We're so alone here, we feel like we're on the moon." And this triggered something in me. I remembered Apollo 13. I remembered that when these astronauts were stranded in their space capsule, that back on the ground in NASA, they had a duplicate of every single piece of equipment. And so for every camera, every lens, every microphone that I sent into Ukraine, we had the same thing here in the United States. And we created an impromptu film school. Every day we would get on Zoom, we would use this common language of art, this universal language to communicate in order to empower them to tell their story. And what they taught themselves how to do and the bravery that they poured into their art and into this film is what you saw tonight.
It was such a pleasure for us to work with Brendan because his incredible guidelines. We never think about how to do it. We just take our camera and film it. And so important was support of our people, from our support of our unit, my unit, and our mills. So many people help us because they think it's important. It's really important. And I was able to work on film only because when I take my camera, somebody take my rifle and fight instead of me. And there is all these people think it's so important. Share our experience.
And it's only because, as you're saying, that people are standing up for freedom in Ukraine that you're able to share this story. And it is the goal of totalitarian regimes like Russia to destroy culture, to take away our uniqueness, our ability to express ourselves. And when Russia first invaded, they destroyed universities and schools and museums, and they killed artists. But through continuing to create your work and put that back into the world, you are resisting this.
We never can fix this destruction. We never, nobody can bring back to life our killed artist, and because our culture is priority target of Russian attacks, we must work instead of these people. It's our duty create our art.
So when you're learning how to make movies, you're taking you already are an artist. You work with these figurines. Andrey is a painter. How did you translate your view of art from those mediums to what film can do? What was that process like of learning how the power of film?
Well, I can say that even in the process of teaching Slava and Andrey, we used the universal language of art that they already had and that I already had to kind of bypass the fact that we didn't speak the same language. I don't speak Ukrainian. At the time, Slava's English is very good now, but at the time, you were not speaking English yet. But we communicated using drawings and storyboards and paintings and references and looking at sculptures and photographs and all of these things. We used this universal language of art. And what they were able to do is everything that I showed them about, okay, here's what you can do with the camera or lens or light, they were masters at it instantly because they had been visual artists for decades. And the way that they translated their ability as a sculptor, as a painter, into cinema was as if they'd been doing it their whole lives. It was a miracle to watch it.
It was really easy for us because we understood our project have Brian in Los Angeles, and we must be eyes of our project and just look attentively and film more and more. And we filmed 500 hours.
We ended up by the end of the production with 15 cameras in Ukraine, between body cameras and drones that were filming the activities on the front line, and a number of cameras that Slava and Andrey were, so eager and so brilliant to use.
Slava, was it your idea to take cameras into the war zone part? Or was that something you talked about with Brendan first?
Oh, I'm not so brave to film in a real mission. I think it's maybe dangerous for my friend if I will focus it on filming process. I cannot fight normally. But all my friends, when I ask, are you ready to do something? What do you think? Is it too dangerous or not? Can you be so careful with camera? They just answer, we will do it. Give us this camera and we will do it.
And we were speaking with them after they had begun filming, and they said to us, we picked up this camera because we felt if we could record what we were going through, maybe someone else wouldn't need to stand in our shoes. And we just thought this degree of bravery, not only the presence of mind to turn on the camera, but to be able to do that day in and day out was absolutely remarkable. And they're just normal, they're regular people. They're farmers, they're calm contractors, they're just like us.
And these people are they were so happy and so successful in their civilian life. Maybe because they are successful like soldiers. They are very flexible, very educated, and they're really smart.
And Dever made me think that he was a art critic in the making. And here's this weapons guy who's looking at this little dragon and making these beautiful observations about the work. I thought, you're an art critic too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Also, he is very successful weapon designer. Now, powerful machine gun, his design, used in Turkish Navy.
I'm kind of curious. So, Brendan, this stuff is coming in, images, sound, and I know the documentary filmmakers often, discover what a movie is as footage is coming in. So, can you talk about what you were learning this movie was as their footage was coming in?
We were in a really unique position. I mean, often when you make a documentary, sometimes you're able to film and get everything in the can, so to speak, and then edit. But because we were in this situation where the war was unfolding, we edited while they were filming. This process was completely simultaneous. And so the cut itself actually followed Anya and Slava's lives very, very linearly. And the process of discovery there was just trying to see how could we share with the audience what it was like to be in their shoes? How during the day they would, there would be shelling, they would be out training or fighting, and then at night they're still be able to go into a creative space. And I just wanted to say, what is it how can this be the same person? We wanted to just answer that question. How can somebody be living this dual life, as you say in the film? And this discovery was just a completely organic process. We kept going, and the rhythm of the footage was really deeply inspired, to be very frank, by the music of Daka Braka. This was an early discovery that we made, and we actually cut the film to Daka Braka. We were trying to figure out what score could possibly work for this, and Slava started playing the music, and we just felt nothing else. You could never write music for this film because the spirit of Ukraine is so deeply imbued in what they're doing already. And the band even is touring now, and they're donating what they make on the road to musicians who have been forced to fight. And it's just incredible what they're doing. So everything was truly organic. It was just about bringing people into their lives.
And Slava, Brendan's discovering the film, but you are making a movie, still making art. Did your relationship to art change as you were experiencing this? Did you see art in a different way, who you are as an artist?
I'm not sure. Anya and me try to fix our normal pre-war mode. Really, Ukrainians are very peaceful people. Ukraine never fight during all time of Ukrainian independence. We never have any military ideas. We are really peaceful people. And now we still cannot understand too much about war. We just hate this violence and try to defend our culture, because we try to defend our point of view of culture and our art.
Talk about the animation, because one of the great things about this movie are the extremes of feeling. You have these kind of like observed moments, the war and at home, and then these transcendent expressions through the animation. Can you talk about that process?
Well, the animation was a part of Porcelain War before the film even began, because that was the genesis of our collaboration. It was just this question of, they weren't creating objects, they were creating something that would hold the truth of their lives. And so we were working on the animation, and we were trying to figure out, normally, again, you would edit the film, and then that would be done, and then you would do all the animations that you need. But we had to do everything at the same time because there was such urgency with sharing this story with the world. And so we wanted to ask the question, okay, how can we make these animations when we're still filming? And we realized that the work that they're making, it told their past in Crimea, this peaceful, beautiful, idyllic past, the war in the second animation, and their dreams about the future. And this was such an inspiring thing to look at past, present, and future that we shared Anya and Slava's work with an animation collective in Poland. And they felt such a deep kinship between Poland and Ukraine that they actually hand drew 7,000 frames of animation. They studied 10 years of Anya's work, and they learned to animate in her style. And that's what you're seeing on the skin of these figurines.
Yeah, because when something is that meticulous, and you see how, I mean, and she is so meticulous, you have to honor that with the animation, right? I mean, it's got to reflect that.
It was really, and Anya was really surprised by this animation. But this animation is one of the most important part of our movie. As for me, this animation gave us this incredible opportunity, never show something too terrible, but speak about this. Because I was scared. I think if something in our movie will looks like news, nobody know who survived next year, and our movie just transform in old news. But this, and we escape all these terrible pictures, all this blood and death. We try to show beauty. And because of this animation, we find a language how to speak about these terrible things.
I think it's fitting that you brought a source of light with you. We've been talking about light with Frodo, who looks like maybe Frodo is sleeping a little bit, maybe. Can you give us a sense of what Frodo thinks of this journey that you've been taking, going around with Frodo in the film?
Frodo, he is 8. He really friendly. He like people. Sometimes he is tired, but he like audience. He like attention. He not dependent of food, but he dependent of love, like all of us.
Let's get some questions if we can. I think we have wait for Armando with the mic, and he will bring you the.
Thank you so very much for a most moving story. We watch the Ukrainian battles every day and really feel horrible what's going on. And this was such a different kind of presentation of a war and people living and struggling. Could you give us an update on, because I think it stopped in last year. So where's the family? What's happened?
Andrey's family is in Luxembourg, in safe. But Andrey is in Ukraine. He is still disconnected, and he is really sad because of this. Our unit is good. All my friends, all friends from my unit still survive. It's a miracle. It's a miracle because after our film, they have few more terrible battle, but I hope they can survive because they are really brave and so important people for our country, for our culture. I wish him all the best.
Hi, first of all, congratulations on an incredible movie. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your experience with us. We spoke, you all spoke a lot about the cameras and that process. I was really curious about the sound as well, because the sound design is so good and you're able to capture really like the ambient. And how was that process for you?
Well, I can share that process began with what Anya, Slava, and Andrey have, which is curiosity to capture everything around them in one way or another, whether it's in a painting or in a sculpture. And when we sent these sound recorders, we would receive these recordings of, here's shelling, here's an air raid siren, this is a creek, these are these crickets for this shot. And it was this entire portrait of Ukraine, the beauty of it and what was happening to it. And sometimes we'd be getting these files, and then Slava would text me and he'd say, there's been shelling tonight, the internet's out, the power's out, the heat is out, and I couldn't sleep. I was losing my mind, wondering what would happen. And then finally the footage would start coming in again in the next morning or the next day, and Slava would say, we're okay. But our feelings were tied together. And I think by recording such a rich, original soundscape, it's yet another way to just share, this is really what it's like to be there.
Because I have not filming experience, I try to spoil it all, but we always have something extra. From the very beginning, I shot near the camera and destroyed camera's microphone. And it was only first our issue, but we always make something extra, and because this, we finally have something.
Well, I was just curious if you always knew how key Frodo was going to be to this movie, or did it happen really organically because you guys are so enraptured with him that you... But it was amazing, actually.
He's key to everything, so I don't know how to answer that. No, I mean,
Frodo is interested in this question. But
Frodo's very interested in this question. We knew... from the first time that we were on Zoom together, he was always there. And then we noticed him starting to show up in their art and in every facet of their daily routine, visiting with them, being a part of everything, bearing witness to everything. And it was just, I think, at least for me, Frodo represents somebody very innocent that's going through this, but that's still telling their story. His story is in the animation. And we thought that was a really important perspective because there's so many animals that are suffering in Ukraine. There's so many children. There's so many innocent people. And it's, it's symbolic of that. And of course, he's just so dear to Anya and Slava.
Frodo really represent our pets. And you may understand it's terrible problem now. And we support our animal rescue. And you can find on the site of our film, you can find contact of our animal rescue. They make incredible work. You may know, donate. Now rescue one Ukrainian dog they wrote me yesterday $18. One life cost $18.
If you feel motivated to help, porcelainwar.com, we have a number of really amazing organizations.
Thank you. So I love the film, by the way, and thank you for coming here, both of you. But my question involves about the sort of the split, the delineation between the parts of the film that focus more on the fighting, the war itself, and those that focus on the art. Obviously, I thought you guys did a really good job of synthesizing those two and finding a common thread between the two. But could you talk about your process of figuring out sort of what portion of the film you wanted to devote to the art, and then what portion of it you wanted to devote towards war? Was that something that was really uncovered in the editing room, or was that something that was really intentional from the get-go?
I can definitely say that it was really, really uncovered in the editing room. It was, as I was saying earlier, the goal that we had was that the cut could as closely as follow their lives as it progressed through time, right? The film occurs pretty linearly in a sense, but also in terms of that balance. And it always felt to us, anytime that Slava had to fight or Saigon was on a mission, that they were resisting in that way. They were counterbalancing it almost just as you're inhaling and you're exhaling, right? They would then create art. They would put something back into the world. They would still try to live life and share with everybody and film and be making something. So there was a natural rhythm to their lives, and we just tried to echo that as best we could in the cut.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming, well, all three of you for coming, and bringing this beautiful movie. You've made a war movie that's really a love story about people and survival and art and your country. So thank you very much, and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.